Hey, this is me building and strategizing a $2 million per year business in public. Last month I made 139 grand, and next month I want to hit 167. Day by day breakdown of how I'm doing it. Now this is my Q&A, which is what we're going to start with. If you guys have any questions you want to see me answer, just drop them on any one of my YouTube videos on the Daily Updates channel. I will do so happily. Next, we're going to cover growth stats, and then finally we're going to do some live strategy. And I got to clean this puppy up, but I can't really, which is sort of annoying. Oh yes, you know what? I can. I'm awesome. Let's move over to my main channel, which is over here. We just hit 61,000 subs, looking good. And let's move over to the Daily Updates channel, the one that you're currently on, and scroll all the way down to the bottom to start sourcing questions. Okay, so the very first question down at the bottom was from Moby the Whale 3828. I love the name. What do you think about the private equity or business broker niche, essentially building deal flow for them of businesses who want to sell? I think this is a great niche. No major issues at all. I've considered going into private equity myself. I just don't really think timelines line up. I think that I could go into private equity and I could do some sort of big roll up and stuff like that, but I could make more money in personal branding, at least more direct cash flow in personal branding. The equity and enterprise value of a brand that is built around you and your face is difficult for sure. But I think there's more money in what I'm doing right now than, necessarily going into private equity. In your case, if you want to sell to private equity or business brokers, you absolutely can. I mean, the cool thing is all of the outreach methods that I talk about are all B2B, right? So cold email, B2B, Upwork, B2B, community posts and stuff like that, mostly B2B. So because it's B2B, private equity, business brokers looking for deal flow. I mean, how easy is a pitch basically to 10,000 companies saying, hey, I'll buy your business tomorrow. Just send me over X, Y, and Z. You're probably not actually going to buy the businesses tomorrow, but how easy is that pitch to get responses and interest, right? Very simple and easy way to buy undervalued businesses. Just pitch a lot of them and ask to buy their business and then worry about doing the DD and working out the fundamentals after the person's already got back to you. It's funny, I mentioned this is the exact same sort of campaign that I ran for a real estate agent. And I think they made $150,000 in a day or something like that. They were buying undervalued homes and we had no real personalization or information about the homes that we were buying. So we just blasted to a massive list of 50,000 people. Hey, I'll buy your home tomorrow for $300,000 or something. We just flat number. Actually, I don't even know if we said $300,000 in the first. It might've been the second email. But anyway, we just sent it out to 1,000 people on day one, and 50 people got back to us being, okay, I'd be interested in this. And then obviously we bought it all cash, no questions asked. And a lot of people that received these emails were in dire need of some sort of bailout and were looking to sell their home or would be open to selling their home if somebody were to make them a cash offer. So we just put ourselves in front of them, right place, right time, right? Very simple and easy way to do that in private equity or business broker niches as well, right? You just pitch a bunch of businesses and offer to buy them. Okay. Tyrone Esteban says, great topic. Nice work with your channel growth. Thank you. Just wondering what exactly you provide to a business when working on a monthly retainer. Is it a retainer for a single automation you built for a business, or is it to continually build new ones? If it's building new ones, you'd quickly run out of high ROI systems to apply to their business. I understand that the ROI you might provide to a business from, say, a lead gen automation might be massive, and so it justifies the recurring payment. But if the retainer is just for maintenance of one system, how are you avoiding the retainer turning into endless revisions versus just maintenance? This is a scope creep question. With the maintenance piece, what is there to maintain if it works well? It wouldn't seem right to ask a business to pay a retainer if the ongoing work is next to zero. I'm personally feeling more comfortable with the idea of a recurring payment for something like a weekly social listening report using Apify scrapers, for example, rather than, say, creating automation for a business that rarely needs changes. Thanks in advance, you rock. Yeah, I mean, I think you've thought it through, and I like how you're pitching and positioning everything in terms of delivering consistent value for a customer over time. This section here about how you wouldn't feel right charging a client if the ongoing work is next to zero. I understand where you're coming from with this, but I would encourage you to think about it a little more nuanced than that. If the ongoing work is next to zero, does that necessarily mean the value you're providing to the business is zero? No, because a lot of these systems that you have created, the whole point is that they produce value independently of you having to constantly be looking over its shoulder, right? So it's not that it's not right to ask a business to pay a retainer if the ongoing work is next to zero. The only situation in which I think it is morally not okay to continually work with the client on a retainer is if you are not providing any sort of value. But with the systems that you built, listen, it's kind of like the plumber analogy, right? If you hire up an emergency plumber to fix your pipes and then they come over, they charge you $500, and then It takes them 2 seconds to put their ear to the wall, identify that there's some drip or something, and then go back in the other room and like, change one of the handle. I don't know, whatever. It takes them like 30 seconds, right? Is it unfair that that plumber made $500 in 30 seconds? No, it's not, because the plumber didn't make $500 in those 30 seconds. They made $500 building the level of expertise necessary to be able to do the thing in 30 seconds over the course of the last few years, right? So the ongoing work doesn't have to be zero. The ongoing work doesn't have to be around in order for you to get paid, but you do have to continuously be providing some sort of value in so far as maybe some system that you built doing cold email autonomously or something like that. So what do I provide to a business and work on a monthly retainer? I provide unlimited maintenance on all systems that we've built together. I provide basically, I now say 15-minute availability between 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. PT, where you can basically ask me any question you want between that time window, and I will get back to you in approximately 15 minutes or so. Weekly strategy calls with me. I know that my writing is progressively getting worse, so bear with me. But essentially, you get a weekly strategy call, ends up being 30 to 45 minutes, where I slot into your business and then I just tell you exactly what I think you need to do in order to make more money. I basically build it a roadmap for us for the subsequent week. After that, I do, like a lot of the time, I'll do like a big monthly roadmap at the beginning of the month, or I will do, I'll pitch them with a proposal at the beginning of our business relationship. And then that proposal will include like a list of 50 things that I want to do. So I just kind of, go off of that for the most part, but sometimes I provide that monthly roadmap as well. What else do? I do unlimited new projects. So these unlimited new projects, you're probably like, what the hell? You do an unlimited amount of work for the customer? And it's like, yeah, I do. But when people work with me, they understand that I don't deliver these projects immediately. These take some time to build, right? So when I say unlimited new projects, essentially what I mean is you can make as many requests as you want. I'll just add it in my queue. But realistically, in terms of how many projects I'm actually fulfilling over the course of a week, it's usually about one in practice. And a lot of the time, like I do have templates and blueprints for most things. So if you think about it in terms of like the work that I am providing on a daily basis, I'm not spending like 8 hours a day fulfilling a client for $7,000 a month, right? A little under $7,000 a month, 6,900. There's a lot of perceived value in this, right? Like this is something that a client would typically pay for standalone, some sort of maintenance package. This is Q&A and training for the team. This is something clients would typically pay for standalone. This is like a weekly strategy call. This is consultation with me. My hourly rate's almost like $700 or $800 right now, right? For these sorts of consultations, right? You get this built in and bundled into your retainer. That's a lot of value. Then the limited new projects. This just depends on exactly what it is that we're building. And I'm, of late getting to the point where instead of even just building the projects myself, I just describe exactly what the system should look like, or SOPs to their team. And then I have their team try and put it together with tools and whatnot. And the rationale there is like, I don't necessarily want to be the person that is a single nexus of failure if any of these systems go wrong. Like I want the team to develop the skills necessary in order to build out these automations as well. Now, your next question is, oh, Nick, like if you just empower the team to do all of this stuff, then won't they just fire you? Once they all know how to do it? And yeah, I think that's a reasonable assumption to make if you don't have a strong relationship with a client. But in my case, all of my longtime clients that I'm doing this with, I have very strong relationships with, and my value goes very far beyond just the actual dragging and dropping of modules on a screen, right? They consider me like their growth partner. So yeah, that's what I do here. And then, yeah, hopefully that answers that as well. And then, yeah, I mean, like you quickly run out of high ROI systems to apply to their business. I mean, yeah, there's only a certain number of systems you can realistically build for a business, right? Like you need, you have a system for some sort of lead gen, system for some sort of nurturing, system for some sort of onboarding. You have some accessory sales systems. Like after a while, to be real, like most of these business models only have a certain number of, nodes in your flowchart that you can optimize the hell out of. And that's okay. I haven't got to the point with any of my clients where I've run out yet necessarily. So, usually there's always something to optimize and make better, but definitely a fair point. I guess my encouragement to you would just be to like maybe look a little shorter term, because while you're technically right, like academically, over the course of 2 years, maybe you'll run out of stuff. Like you're also just putting the cart before the horse, right? Like, have you got a client for 2 years at that point where have you ever had to face the problem where you've run out of high ROI systems to apply to their business, Tyrone? Probably not, right? Like you're probably not at that point realistically. So, when that problem becomes a problem, you can cross that bridge, right? Like cross that bridge when you get to it, not necessarily right now. No business model is going to be perfect. And there's so much variability in today versus when you will come in and encounter that problem that who knows, maybe the market will change so quickly that they will develop new problems in that time that will necessitate you building new systems for that client. And then there'll just always be some sort of new problem because the market's changing so fast. Yeah. Anyway, your point about the weekly social listening report is bang on for sure. Yeah, that's like an alternative. Like this is me providing automation as a service, almost like AAAS kind of. If you think about it, that's kind of cool. Maybe I'm going to make that my thing. Automation as a service, Nick's business model. But this is sort of like you build some system, but then you're not providing your automation skills as a service. What you're doing is you're providing the specific system as a service, the weekly social listening report. So this here would be like some sort of, marketing as a service or something like that. You know what I mean? So hopefully that provides some context. Mansur Shaban says, can you do a video about MCP? That's Model Context Protocol on the main channel as a tool in the N8N tool builder. I'm glad that they finally got on that because that helps minimize some of the problems. I love how I posted my YouTube video like 3 days later. They're like, all right, yeah, we should probably do MCP. Nah, not to, suck my own dick here, but like, I think we all knew that AI agents and N8N were a problem. And so standardizing the formatting and the tool calling, because their prompts really sucked in the backend, standardizing the formatting and the tool calling is really important. And I'm glad that they're starting to do so. So yeah, I probably will. Been watching you for a month, Nick. Started my AI agency, signed a client in 2 weeks. Thank you for the value providing. Love you from Pakistan. Dude, hell yeah. Nice work. Thank you very much for the haircut compliment. Yeah. Stoked as hell. Stoked as hell on that. Okay. Devansh says, thanks for the answer in the last video. My name is Devansh. Might be too many syllables. Anyway, if I were to swallow all the cost, is there a way I can custom limit their usage and charge extra or something if they need more? Anyway, thanks for a ton of value. Cheers, Devansh. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for making it so I do not butcher your name moving forward. There is a way that you can custom limit their usage. It depends on what platform you're using. Like if you're using like OpenAI or something, you can absolutely limit token usage. Just set like token limits and stuff like that. So if that's what we're talking about, yeah. And then you can charge them extra if they need more, I guess. But like honestly, Devansh, like the cost here is so low. Unless you're using GPT 4.5 for everything, the cost is going to be like $3. Like, do you really want to custom limit that usage? I don't know. I don't really see the point personally. Nav AI Q AI says, be honest, is that your real voice? I know your conversion is high now. Yes, it is. Sarcasm says, hey Nick, as I'm signing more clients, thank you. I'm trying to find some mental balance between the work and stuff I like to do outside my ads agency. Right now I have Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. in my contracts with clients for when they can communicate with me on WhatsApp. Well, that's a very big window. That's 6 hours. I always end up going past these hours. It makes my mind feel so chaotic. I'm having a hard time stopping work for the day because I want to get stuff done or over deliver. Question, would love to know how you may have overcome this mental hurdle as you were scaling up and taking more and more clients. Yeah, don't get me wrong. This is the problem. Like you're not gonna achieve, I think, massive success in any industry unless you are like over delivering. And then if you are feeling chaotic, like just to be real, like basically every startup founder or anybody that's ever made it big will always have some period of their life where they were juggling God knows how many freaking things at once. And everything felt like it was about to fall apart at any moment. So just to be clear, I think it just depends on the size that you want to get to, the purpose of this business, if it's a lifestyle business, if it's like, some vehicle that you want to take to $10 million a year or something like that. But yeah, I had a lot of these periods. And some might say I still do from time to time. So my recommendation for you, if we're just being tactical here, is just get this a lot smaller. Like there's no need for you to be available to clients to contact you for random Q&A for 6 hours, right? Like that's 6 hours. There's no point for this. Realistically, you should have like a window of an hour or two like me, 12 p.m. till 2 p.m. PT. Just make sure you're by your computer then. Excuse me. And then make that, like, if they send you a message on WhatsApp, that's when you'll get back to them between that period. But you're not going to do it before or after. The reason why this is so important is just because so many client concerns are just not actually important at all, for one. So they're just concerned about something that isn't really important. If you allow that to take your energy away day to day while you're like building systems or doing your lead gen or whatever, you're going to get distracted. And there's something called attentional drift. Sorry, there's like an attentional cost. Every time you change your attention from something like some silly client message, which takes you even 5 minutes to do, and then you go back to like building out systems or fulfilling or doing some sort of concerted lead gen effort. The cost that you spent there is not the 5 minutes that it took to do the message. You actually spent more like 20 minutes of your time, because it takes you like it takes away from your focus on the first task for a few minutes, and then it takes you a fair amount of time to get into the second task, and then it takes you a fair amount of time again to like rewire your mind to get back to the first task. This is well documented in literature and stuff. The effect of this is it just feels like you're doing a lot, but you're actually doing very little. And this is something that I struggled with for a while. Now, what I typically like to do is I like to have defined like chunks of work. I do this thing first, that thing second, this thing third, that thing fourth. And like, if a client wants to talk to me, I'll do that thing fifth, So I actually, you basically chat on my time, if that makes sense. Like, I'll get back to you when I'm done doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing for you. So still some issues with that, right? But when you get in the habit of, it's not time boxing exactly, but when I get in the habit of like prioritizing my tasks, where usually like my lead gen, content production, client management, all of these have like dedicated spots in my list. When these are all first, and then the chatting with clients comes after, I can get a lot more done. Shark Swayze, who has changed his profile picture yet again, says sell the tools or the infrastructure. Yeah, I would sell the tools at this point. I mean, like, I guess it depends on in what context, but I don't know. Like, if you guys are between 0 to 10K a month, I would sell tools, not necessarily like deep infrastructure. What mic do you use? Your voice is so clear. Thanks. Big fan from Uzbekistan. I use a Samsung Q2U. That's what this thing is right here. It's pretty good, but I also use this tool called Ophonic, which touches up my voice, changes the reverb and stuff like that. Producer Asaf says, I feel like I just can't choose an offer or niche to start sending outreach to. I'm stuck in analysis paralysis. Well, the first step to overcoming anything is recognizing it. What would you recommend for me to do to get the agency some real clients? I'd recommend you get out of analysis paralysis and send your first email. So right now, if you are watching this video, Producer Asaf, right now, go to my niche discovery spreadsheet right over here. Pick 3 of these. These I just 1, 2, 3. Okay. Pick 3 of these and then go on Apollo and make 3 lists using Apollo. Take that, go to leadsrapidly.com, pay $15. Okay. Get 3,000 leads, $5 per 1,000 and 1,000 per niche, and then add them to a cold email tool with some sort of messaging and send it out. You can do this all realistically over the course of the next 2 hours. As long as you just start sending them out, that's all that really matters. Copy one of my cold email templates, go through other people's instant lease templates, just put something together and at least start sending. It doesn't have to be good, doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you actually get the ball rolling, that analysis paralysis you will gradually beat that thing down through action. Vince says, hey, Nick, I've been a fan of yours for a little less than a year now. Thank you, man. Crazy to think that it's been a whole year. Huh? Thanks to your videos, I've been able to provide tons of value to my clients as Google Ads manager by creating side projects like system automations. I recently joined your school community, hell yeah, and I'm now planning to transition my freelance services to AI and systems automation. In one of your videos, you mentioned geo arbitrage, right? I'm from the Philippines. I noticed that some potential clients tend to look down on freelancers from developing countries as if skill is determined by location. This is very true. My question is, how can I handle objections like this and help them see the value I bring to the table instead of focusing on where I live? Really grateful for all the knowledge you share online, Nick. Thank you. No problem. The biggest thing is you need to separate yourself in terms of your branding and your packaging from like offshore virtual assistant services to like specialized high quality AI automation, services that may be a tiny bit cheaper than, let's say, some onshore. But these are fundamentally different. And you should definitely use the fact that you live in a developing country as an advantage using geo arbitrage, okay? You should not be charging the exact same price as maybe somebody that is like, I don't know, let's say it's a client in New York and there's like a freelancer in New York, right? I might charge them like $150, $200 an hour or something like that for the same level of work that you can realistically do, but you can charge like $70 or $80 an hour for. That'll make you a lot more attractive. Both the fact that you're still delivering some sort of cost benefit, but you're not like this low talent offshore labor for $5 or $10 an hour like most people are going to mentally botch you into. So yeah, if we're being pragmatic, of course, usually Western companies, the people with all the money, they're going to want to make sure that the people that they work with tend to have like very strong English skills, tend to be like English native, tend to probably work more in their time zones and stuff like that, tend to like understand like the local custom and culture that that their company was built on. So you can understand why they tend to look down, because they're simply just, they're stereotyping you, but they're doing so because they tend to have negative experiences working with like low quality, cheaper offshore labor. So I get it. But you have an opportunity to distinguish yourself from that while still making multiples, right? Like if we just do a little bit of math here, like let's say you charge, and I'm using hourly, just because it's the simplest way for us to do these calculations, but you should definitely pitch value price wherever possible. Let's say the average like New York AI automation specialist, it's a New York company that's hiring you. The New York AI automation specialist charges $175. Okay. And then you're charging, I don't know, why don't we do this? Make my math a little bit easier. $200 an hour, and you're charging $100 an hour. Okay. If we're pragmatic here, what is the cost of living difference between New York and the Philippines? We could do a little bit of math here, but my take is it's probably more than 10x. Okay. The cost difference between you is 2x. That means that you are, in essence, okay, you are making 5 times in terms of buying power what this dude in New York is making, and you're charging half of what they are. So if you can get to some level of quality of talent and some level of quality of branding and an understanding of like the local customs and culture, and if you can maybe work on like the New York time zone or be as accessible as humanly possible to these people to make their lives easier, they will pick you because there's a 2x difference in cost. And then you get to benefit because you have a 5x difference in buying power using the money that you're making. That's really the geo arbitrage. Some practical and tactical tips, like on Upwork, let's say, which I think a lot of people from the Philippines get started on. I think you can brand your profile very differently. Choose like a middle to high level hourly rate instead of like $15 an hour, like a lot of other people from the Philippines do. Start at like 45 or something. Sure, you're going to get a lot fewer takers initially, but when you get a couple of jobs under your belt at that hourly rate, it'll imply that you are very talented and very skilled. I might also do stuff like, get like professional photos done. Like a big thing that a lot of people in these developing countries do is, they typically, it's like much higher density. And so it's difficult to find like office space. It's difficult to find like a place to work or whatever. So they usually have like really crappy photos where a lot of people are just take them outside. I see this a lot in my community from people that are in like, I don't know, Mumbai or something like that. They have like photos of them outside and they're using them for some sort of professional purpose. And they're usually in like a jacket or maybe like a t-shirt or something. If you could like make yourself seem as if you've had some professional headshots taken, that usually helps. Obviously, your English has to be impeccable. Your English looks impeccable, so there's no problem here. I think your English is probably much better than like the vast majority of people that are like in the West, to be honest. So no problem there. Make sure you don't have any internet issues. When I was hiring primarily from the Philippines, I was hiring all over the place, but particularly in Cebu and then Mindanao. There are a lot of like floods that were happening and like electricity issues. And so the internet was going out pretty often. I would say at least once a week, there'd be some sort of local problem that would reduce their ability to be consistent, which would obviously impact how I perceived their ability to produce output. And as somebody that's, I lived in the Philippines for a few weeks and I got to see the local culture and really breathe it and understand it when I was building 1 Second Copy in my team. As somebody that's been down there, I don't necessarily think that there is a quality difference, but there's definitely like a culture difference. Like one thing that a lot of Filipino hires that I've made have done is they won't tell me when they don't understand something because they're afraid to, I don't know, I'm like the boss, right? So they're afraid to like seem as if they don't know something or they're not very good at something. But them not knowing something usually means that they're incapable of accomplishing the task the way that I want them to. So what I would do is I would just get in the habit of like, if you don't know something, don't be afraid to ask a question about it. Just make sure you come with some sort of prepared solution as well. For instance, if you are, I don't know, trying to sync with some old system that they use and you don't know how to do it, right? You would say, I'm not really sure how to use the system. So I wanted to see if you had any ideas on what I should do because I don't want this to take any more time than maybe, it's already taking. Here's what I was thinking of doing. Let me know if I'm on the right track, right? Just kind of offer them a solution. And I think that sort of thoughtfulness will immediately set you apart from basically everybody else. And, just make you a more attractive hire than a lot of Western people, honestly. So yeah, those are my thoughts. So I really appreciate you asking that. And that's great to hear that you are doing well with Google Ads and stuff. It's just an unfortunate reality, you know? Just one of those things you have to contend with. Like, I wish I could change people's opinions on that, just like I wish that we could eliminate all stereotypes and, racial divides and class divides and all that shit. But, it's not going to happen realistically in our lifetime. So we just have to figure out how we can work around it. Ging Rich Asante, hopefully I'm not butchering that name, says, "Hey Nick, I've been watching your content for some time now. I'm a beginner in automations. Wanted to know if you had some sort of framework or thought process you use when creating custom automations. I'm glad to be a part of this journey." Yeah, for sure. I use a pretty undervalued one called The Theory of Constraints when I build mine. Basically, it's this book that was written by this guy called Eli Goldratt, okay? Eli Goldratt was like some big manufacturing consultant back in the day, and he wrote a bunch of books around it. But essentially, the way that it works is, can I open this picture? I want to show everybody. Nope. Apparently cannot. Okay, so check this out. If you just pretend your whole business is a pipeline, okay? So this right here, that's lead gen. This right here, that's onboarding. This right here, and this is actually very accurate, this is fulfillment. This right here, I don't know, that's retention. Okay. If you think about your whole business as just a pipe, and there's a bunch of other steps in between, let's keep it simple. Then all the theory of constraints is you find the single thing in your business that is constraining, that is basically the narrowest part here of this pipeline. The way that pipelines work are basically the narrowest part of the pipeline is it dictates the speed of the entire pipeline. So like, it doesn't matter how wide this stuff is. Like if this is really narrow, then you will never go faster than however much like fluid that this allows you to go through, right? So that's why it's called the theory of constraint. So basically in this hypothetical business model, we got pretty good lead gen. We got like kind of a thinner onboarding pipeline, but that's fine. Fulfillment's really, really good. So clearly they have a bunch of staff on hand waiting, but retention's poor. Okay. What does that mean? That means that they do a job for the clients, everything's awesome. But then when it comes time to retain the client, when it comes time to like upsell them or cross-sell them, they're basically doing nothing. So in this case, the business that we are hypothesizing here, my recommendation would be, well, we need to find a way to improve the retention ASAP. What are some ways to improve retention? You do things like over-delivering. So then I start looking at systems that would allow me or enable me to over-deliver. What are some ways I could make it seem like the value of the service that I'm providing is a lot higher than the value of the service that I actually am? What are some quick wins? Well, a lot of the time, a quick win is like some sort of documentation. It's some sort of like customized video. It's some sort of training package that you give alongside of the thing that you're building. It's some sort of, I don't know, add-on, some big write-up, some handoff document. It's something that's like really easy to do that only takes an additional 10 or 15 minutes by the chief engineer that, or whatever business model you're working, maybe HVAC or something, it's different. But it's something that only really takes like 5 or 10 or 15 minutes by the person that's fulfilling the job, that if you deliver it alongside the thing, it provides just that a slight improvement in polish, which makes it so that when you provide the ask and you say, hey, like now that we're done that first project, I'd like to work with you on a second one, or now that we're done that first one, I have a deal that's like limited offer or whatever. It makes it so much more likely that they'll say yes to that thing. So that's a hypothetical example of how you might do something like this in the agency space. Let's hypothetically say that this fulfillment was actually the bottleneck, okay? Super, super small, look at that. Well, what's a way that you can improve this? Well, it's to hire more people. So what could you build? You could build hiring systems. You could build systems that improve the probability or ability of a single freelancer or contractor to fulfill the work. So you could teach them AI or build AI systems out that like allow you to template out a big chunk of the work. So that way you'd be able to improve fulfillment without improving headcount. A lot of things going on. Anyway, after you've elevated the constraint, that just means widen the bottleneck basically. Notice how now we have a new constraint, right? Now that's up here. Now onboarding is the constraint. So now we need to build systems for this. Well, this is basically what I do just over and over and over again. I will find the thinnest part of this pipeline, which is this. I will elevate it, and then I'll find the next thinnest part of the pipeline, which is this. I'll elevate it. I'll find the next thinnest part of the pipeline, which is this. I'll elevate it, and so on and so on and so forth until basically your pipeline is just like one perfectly wide, thick, chunky boy. All right. It's all about the girth of the pipeline, I find. Okay. I gotta get canceled eventually. Yeah, that's my recommendation there. So yeah, check out the book, man. It's called The Goal is what it's called. That's the fellow right over here. Handsome devil. But this is the book. And what I really like about it is it's written like a story. Some dude that's struggling with some marriage issues. And he employs the theory of constraints to fix the stuff. So yeah. Okay. I see a lot more questions. I am going to skip through these and I got an appointment that's coming up that I got prep for. So let's just do brand stats really quickly, and then I'll cover some really cool life stories that I've found. I'm doing a Hormozy thing where I basically go through all of my life and then I identify stories that I think I can use as learning lessons, and then I'm going to incorporate them in my content. So I think you guys will find that really interesting. But anyway, my main channel is at 61,030 what? 42. So 247 in the last 24 hours. Growth is slowing, obviously, which is understandable since I haven't published in a while, but that's okay. We are getting pretty quick to publishing again because I'm putting together my team. I'm assembling a team. This is my Instagram follower count, which does not seem to be populating. That's kind of annoying. Oh, yeah, there you go. 49,815. So we are, we're going to hit 50,000 sometime in the next few hours. That's pretty cool. And my daily updates channel seems to have grown a little faster, I think. Yeah, almost 1,900 now. So up by 53. So somehow the growth went up again. These two continuously are continuing to shrink based off of the, based off of this slope, right? We're going to meet somewhere right over here, which means that realistically, how many days is that? I don't know. It's like a week and a half realistically. That's going to be fun. And yeah, that's the brand stats. Things are going really well. A maker school count is all-time high. I think it's up like 85K MRR now, which is crazy. Churn is really high, so I need to fix churn. It's at 21%. I got it down to 19%. Now it's back up to 21%. So I don't really know what's going on there. But let me cover some life story stuff really briefly, and then I'll call it for the day. So I'm sure a lot of people here like Alex Hormozy. I really like Alex Hormozy. I think he's one of the straightest line path people that you could follow on social media. And he reminds me a lot of myself. I mean, he's much further ahead than I am in many respects in terms of money and audience and stuff like that. But he reminds me a lot of myself because we just have very similar styles of thinking. He didn't start social media until he was like very well established with his business. And then he just like was extraordinarily consistent with it for a very long time. He didn't worry too much about his growth. He simply focused on the inputs, and the outputs eventually manifested. He's like the next generation of entrepreneur. You know what I mean? He has like a lot of things sorted. He has like his health. He's freaking ripped. He's intelligent. He has like distribution. He has systems. Like as the bar continues to go up in entrepreneurship, just because of saturation and market sophistication, like people like Alex Hormozy are like the next step, And I'm younger than him, so I'd consider like my generation like the next step. So it's interesting to see, or it'll be interesting to see how people get even better than him. Presumably it has to do with like access and ability to use technology like AI. Alex is really smart, but I don't really think he knows how to use AI. Or really any sort of deep technology. That's not really his skill set, and that's fine. But anyway, that's just me yapping about him. He has this thing where, somebody, I don't know if it was Jack who told me this or somebody else, but somebody asked him a question like, hey, Alex, like, what's your strategy around personal branding? And then he's like, okay, so tell me everything you know about me. And then people started going around in circles saying everything that they knew about Alex Hormozy. So they talked about it like his wife and like his gym launch business. And, oh yeah, I know about this, I know about that. And then he said, everything that you guys just said is on a spreadsheet somewhere. I was like, what the hell? And the whole idea is he basically went through his life and he identified all of the major stories of his life, like the important parts of his life, the turning points, the events, the things that he did that he thinks define him. And he just wrote them all down. And then he has like a bunch of stories throughout his life that he knows and remembers and he thinks about pretty often, so that when the time comes to talk about something that's related, he can kind of slot them into these stories. And then because human beings are such creatures of stories, when you talk about things in terms of stories, people just tend to like you more. It's more relatable. They understand your journey. And it's just much better from a personal branding perspective. So one thing that I did yesterday, which took me like 5 hours, actually, it was like most of my day, was I went through my email, like my main email that I've had for like the last 13, 14 years. And I literally read like 10,000 emails, I want to say. 10,000 subject lines, and then I identified like the top 200 emails that represented different parts of my life, specifically different stories. Like when I was broke and I was in university and I spent like 2 months going to interviews, preparing papers, applying to grants and stuff like that, just to get $4,500. So I spent 2 months of my life to get to $4,500. And then in addition, that $4,500 was my payment for another 2 months, meaning that I basically made about $1,000 a month. And I was working easily like 40 or 50 hours per week, so that my hourly rate was like $7. Anyway, I clearly haven't worked out exactly the story, but Just to make a long story short, the point of all of these things is that you seem a lot more relatable, which is nice because, the more money that I make, the less relatable I will probably seem to everybody. Like this story will probably endear me with a lot of people that come from immigrant family backgrounds, right? My parents were immigrants, and so they just hated the idea of me going into business for myself, and they just told me all the time that you're not going to make it, and you should stop being stupid, and you should get a job at our insurance company, right? Or, like when I failed my business, for instance, I made $7 basically in 3 months. It failed miserably, so I had to get a job. You know what I mean? It's like how many people here have had to do that? Basically everybody. And then there's like other really interesting ones too. Like I use a sex bot to backdoor GPT-3, or I met my business partner picking up chicks, or I flew to Prague for a business deal. I played a lot of RuneScape as a kid. I was in the hospital growing up, right? Well, anyway, I guess the point I'm making is I have a bunch of these really cool stories, and I've worked through the first half of them, which is pretty nice. First half of them, I want to say. So I have another half to do, and then maybe like another 20 or 30 that I'll accumulate over the course of the next few weeks. And then after that, I think it's going to be fun because I'm just going to have like a big list of stories to use in podcasts. And, you know, somebody will be like, what do you think about resiliency? And I'll be like, I have a very interesting story to share about that. And then I'm going to talk about the time that I almost died, right? Like that's the sort of shit that I'm going for. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. Like I'm actually super stoked. It's really cool going through your life and identifying these pivotal turning points. I think it just makes you a lot more interesting. And what's really interesting is that I'd forgotten most of these. I'd forgotten the vast majority of the crazy shit that I used to do. Like I was nuts, man. Like I did a ton of crazy shit. I found some photos of myself, actually, believe it or not. That's a photo of me in college. Look at that. Look at that face. Jesus Christ. I look like man, my jawline's improved, that's for sure. Look at the death in my eyes. You know what I mean? That was me wanting to go to medical school. Look at this guy. This is my best friend Jono right over here. Jono Catliff. He runs a YouTube channel very similarly to me. This is a photo that he edited where we had this running joke that we used to both be DJs. Anytime that we would DJ together, Jono would do all the work while I just stay in the background and look pretty. So he compiled a bunch of photos of both of us DJing where I was just in the background. Look at all these fun ass stories and stuff like that I get to say. I get to talk about, right? Like how cool is that? This is me doing like MMA, Muay Thai. That's me doing longboarding when I was growing up. Like all of these things have the ability to endear me so much to people, I would say. And they're also just parts of my life that I'd completely forgotten about had I not gone through my emails. So yeah, man, really cool shit. I'm pretty excited about that. I know that this is one of those things that doesn't really deliver a direct ROI, but I think long-term, this sort of stuff is like basically what establishes your brand. I think in 5 years from now, when people are like, so what do you know about Nick? It's just going to be this story after that story, after that story, after that story, after that story. Everybody's going to have something that sort of like relates themselves to me, which is cool. And yeah, I'm looking forward to making even more stories. So that's going to be fun, man. It's going to be really cool. Anyway, I'm going to call it there. Hopefully you guys see where I'm coming from. Hopefully you guys like this. And I'm really stoked to share all these stories with you guys because, just off the cuff, I want to get better at explaining them. So I'm sure some questions will come in asking me to talk about a specific one. I'll go through and maybe riff on it for a bit. Let me know. Anywho, have a lovely rest of the day. Catch y'all tomorrow.